Welcome to the Empathic Edge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Empathic Edge with Megan Smith, founder of Empathic Edge. Megan is an attorney, negotiation professor, and dispute resolution professional focused on the future of human communication in an AI-driven world. Through negotiation strategy, emotional intelligence, and high-stakes conversation training, she helps professionals build confidence and perform more effectively under pressure. I'm Sean O'Connor, and today Megan and I are talking about emotional regulation and what happens when conversations start to escalate. Hi, Megan.
Hey, Sean.
Emotional regulation. I feel like I'm back in a therapy conversation from my daughter's childhood, maybe my own. I don't know. But we were talking recently about conversations that sort of take a turn and become more high stakes than you anticipated. What makes emotionally charged conversations so difficult for people to navigate in real time?
Yeah, so the challenge is that these emotional conversations really require the exact opposite of what your instincts are telling you to do. And because when something feels threatening, really even socially or professionally, your instinct is to protect yourself or defend your position and to try to control that outcome.
Mm,
But what actually moves an emotionally charged conversation forward is really slowing down, listening more, and getting curious about what's underneath the surface. So that gap between like your instinct and skill is what makes these conversations so hard, so difficult because you're really trying to override a very fast protective system with
right.
something that's much more deliberate. And in real time without training, most people just struggle to do that.
Yeah, that I'm hearing in the subtext that the pause, right? Like that awareness of like, oh, wait a minute, there I go. uh, or there the conversation is going, or my reaction to it. That's interesting. What usually causes a conversation to shift from, productive tension into, maybe less productive emotional escalation?
I think what most people experience is it's when they start to feel unheard or dismissed or even escalated more attacked.
Yeah,
And
threatened.
instead of being acknowledged, the other person is really kind of responding in kind. And that productive tension can be healthy because it means that there's something really at stake, like high stakes for both people and they're engaged. I know there's this one movie that I watched before, and it's about this couple, and they said, if my ex and I still argued like that, we would still be together. And I thought that was really telling. Not that you should constantly be in arguments,
Right.
but that having engaged conversation is important and meaningful for human growth. So that is important. It's obviously just how do you handle that escalation and how do you regulate your own emotions as well as kind of moderate the other person as well.
Can you speak to how stress affects the way people listen, or even like how they hear or interpret information? And that whole like, okay, I've got to respond here and there's pressure on me.
Yeah. So stress, it's a filter. So when you're under pressure, you're not processing a conversation neutrally. So you're really scanning it for kind of a threat assessment and for confirmation of what you already believe and for anything that justifies the position that you walked in with. So your listening gets narrowed and nuance disappears. Tone becomes disproportionately important. So someone's word choice, a pause, a facial expression, things that might mean nothing in a calm conversation really start carrying,
Right.
much more enormous weight.
Yeah, like, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, uh, as my mother used to tell me all the time.
Yep. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, tone. I mean, that's why we know text messages,
Right,
email, it could be really difficult to understand the actual intention behind
right.
it.
Yeah,
But it's these
misinterpret.
things, yeah, it's these things we don't practice all the time, though. I mean, I wish I had more time to practice, storytelling and inflection, tone, moderating,
Mm,
volume. Those are all things that are skills that you can practice that help, I think, both in the courtroom, but also just
oh,
day-to-day conversations.
yeah, yeah, the courtroom for sure. Are there, signals that I would be looking for, in a conversation that is starting to move in, the wrong direction emotionally.
Yeah, I think when people start shifting from language about like we or us, and then more to like I, or even you did this,
Mm.
right? You did this thing and it's upsetting me. So it goes from kind of, internal experience to blame and accusation. I
Oh,
also
okay.
think, questions tend to stop. So people, when they're under more emotional pressure, they stop asking questions, they start making assumptions, and you see that by them making statements. So it may be very declarative, may even feel accusatory.
Yeah, that like the curiosity ceases, like the question thing, and now that from earlier in our conversation or maybe a previous one, I'm thinking, oh, now you've shifted into like defending your position in,
Mhm.
because you're feeling threatened or something like that. That's interesting. What does emotional regulation actually look like during a tense negotiation or a difficult conversation?
So I do think it varies person to person, and of course, context matters too. Not every negotiation can you stop and say, "Okay, I'm going to do some box breathing. Let me inhale and hold and exhale for 4 to 6 seconds." Uh,
If it pleases the court, I'd like to take a moment to take a collective deep breath, which actually would be an interesting, you know,
it it would be. I
almost
don't think it would be
theatric in its
harmful.
way, but also helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it could be helpful for a lot of people. And so really in a negotiation specifically, it looks like being able to receive an aggressive or unexpected move without immediately reacting to
Mm.
it. So where you can kind of say to yourself internally, yeah, I think that was intended to sort of throw me off or destabilize me, but I'm not going to take that bait.
Ah,
So you can do things like using silence intentionally rather than filling in the void, right, out of discomfort. You can really also name what's happening. So to yourself or even in the room without really being swept up into it.
hmm
Um, Also, looks like keeping your long-term interests in focus, even when the
oh,
short-term goal is to respond to the emotion, because you always have to think about, hey, what's that long-term interest? So yes, maybe an apology here hurts so much,
yeah,
but if it's going to help in the long run, right? If this helps, our child, for instance,
yeah.
right? Like us
Er,
being able to
Keeps the
reach some sort
business
of
deal on track, keeps the negotiation on
exactly.
track. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So you have to keep that in mind. Yeah, and especially with lawyers, they really do have to keep their clients in mind, of course, right?
Yeah, of
If
course.
we're this third party, we shouldn't really be emotionally charged by this. You can advocate for your client, but one of the reasons they are hiring you or paying you is because they're emotional about it when
Yeah.
you really shouldn't be the same.
Well, it's interesting too, because if I were an attorney and I had some facility with these skills, I could see myself coaching my client in certain situations to practice them. I mean, in
Yeah.
just in their own self-interest for the case, whatever it might be, whether it's being cross-examined or just simply giving statements for deposition, that kind of thing. Interesting. In your experience, Megan, why do some people become reactive under pressure while, others stay, they appear to stay composed and focused? Is it a training thing? Is it genetic? What's going on?
Well, I think it can be both a mix between environmental and your experience learned.
Hmm.
So some of it's temperament, but I do think that most of it really is related to training and experience. It's also one reason why you see adults can usually handle conflict and difficult conversations better than, let's say, teenagers,
Yeah.
for a plethora of reasons. But I think one of them is really experience. You have more training just because you've lived longer.
Yeah.
Um, and so people who stay composed under pressure usually have developed two things: self-awareness, which I think we talked about earlier, and really kind of a repertoire of responses.
Mm.
So with self-awareness, really being able to recognize even their own early signs. So if it's, I'm talking faster, so speeding up, I'm interrupting, I'm taking shallow breaths.
Yeah. Feeling defensive, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And you learn those things about yourself, whereas when you're younger, you just may not.
Yeah.
And then really the repertoire of responses means that they've practiced moves available to them in that moment. The way that I see that Sometimes it's even having kind of like a rote phrase that you go back to. Okay, I need to reset, or I need a few seconds to really think through what my next move is. So even if it's, hey, can we table this for a moment? Or, I have told myself beforehand in practice a reframe.
Yeah.
Hey, that's really interesting, even if I don't think it's interesting at all. That's a really interesting viewpoint. Can you tell me more about that? Even when
Yeah.
like my natural instinct is, no, that makes no sense. Like, why would we do that? Right.
Yeah, but that's like,
Um,
I mean, it's a curiosity thing. Like, oh, tell
yeah,
me more about that because in my mind right now, I think you're wacky, but maybe, maybe there's something I'm missing.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, and we're learning, right? It's information in, it makes us better people. It makes us better negotiators.
Hmm.
So I think that I think curiosity, that's going to always be the number one thing that we need to remember going into any hard conversation.
I found myself, I've done this and I wasn't really consciously doing it. I think it was literally kind of a reaction. It was like a defense mechanism where I was like, I was in conversation with someone in my world, and I was like, "Hey, hold that thought. I got to go to the bathroom." And and I probably did, but it was also what that gave me was, oh, it gave me 5 minutes alone. I like walked away, went to the restroom, came back, and it wasn't like a strategy at the time. I think it was more like I was freaking out and I had to get away from it for a minute. But it is interesting how you know, if you were looking for an excuse to press pause, that
Exactly.
let's
Yeah, I
play the
think
play the biology card. I
yeah,
hold on.
subconsciously you knew. You knew what you were
For
doing.
sure. It was, I mean, that it was a flight response in a way. How much prep is needed, before a difficult conversation affects emotional control? Like how do you know what to do in advance?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Obviously it does vary by context, but I think preparation is enormously important no matter what. So even if it's just practicing, daily, hey, I'm going to slow down my speed or rate of speech. I'm going to practice asking questions to like with a stranger. Let's say, you're at the grocery store and checking out
Yeah.
without making any assumptions or
Right.
without
Excuse
them
me, we
trying.
don't know each other, but would you mind paying for my groceries?
Right, yeah, you should do that. So
That's a
maybe not that.
difficult question to ask.
That is a difficult question. It definitely is. But I mean, practicing the small, like micro skills daily, that will definitely help. As far as preparation though, and kind of bigger discussions, I would say most of the time you know going into it, like that hard conversation is going to happen. And so you do have time to prepare for it. So obviously a discussion with your partner about a big trip that you went on and they didn't help you, in preparing for it, or they didn't plan anything for it. That's going to be very different, of course, than you've got a conversation with your boss, about how your work has really shifted and you're not certain what your role is anymore. But in both those situations, you can absolutely prepare for those beforehand. And I think a lot of that is even just kind of role play practice.
Hmm.
So you could do that with yourself. You could record if you
Oh yeah.
wanted to. You could use our app, Empathic Edge, and you could practice it.
There you
So
go.
you've got opportunities there. But then also, I mean, this is where you can use your intellect as well,
Yeah.
right? So if it is, hey, my job is shifted and I'm not certain why, let's kind of document that, right? Let's keep track of some things so that I actually have some data to be able to present as well.
Yeah, like, am I imagining this, or are there some, like you said, data points that point in the direct that makes that a plausible thought, I guess you'd say. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, with the just the couple minutes we have left, I'm wondering if you could share an example of a conversation maybe you had or you observed where emotional regulation completely changed, the direction or outcome otherwise.
Yeah, so I see it happen a lot of the time with my clients. And Honestly, what happens from my end is, I may talk to 60 clients a week, and when you start to hear the same things over and over again, you tend to lose a little bit of patience because you're like, yes, I do know, I understand this situation. And so what I do see, even with my associates, what will happen is they will enter into a conversation, and really what's happening is you're making assumptions about this person.
Yeah.
Well, I dealt with another client like this, and so this is what I'm expecting.
Hmm.
And so what they have to do in that situation is both like self-assess themselves, but also, help our client who is under emotional distress. So with the emotional regulation, I feel like if you take time, if you take a breath and you
Hmm.
slow things down, right? Utilize pauses, stay curious, and really stay present in the conversation, you can see when that actual shift takes place. Because you start focusing less on positions and more on the underlying interests or the rationale or reason behind why something is important to somebody.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I can very much imagine being in that conversation and, oh, you both know things are getting a little tense. And, if you're lucky, both of you have that awareness and it's like coming to the edge of a cliff. It's like, well, let's not go there. Let's just back it up a little bit and stay productive here. That's,
Exactly, and I
yeah.
was just gonna add on to that, so
Yeah.
where I see that most of the time, even with myself, is if I ask it's really just asking an open-ended question from a place of curiosity. So as opposed to, "Hey, I need to set expectations because this isn't what we agreed upon," versus coming in and saying, "Okay, rather than, making a declarative statement, what's a question I can ask?" Even, "Hey, how do you think things are going?"
Hmm.
Right? That will change things, and that changes even my own emotions going into it.
Well, and I hear in that too, it creates a certain joint ownership of the topic, I guess, right? Especially if it were like a how's my your performance isn't what I expected at this stage in the work week or year, whatever, and then it's like, okay, that by opening that up with a question, it starts to be both parties can kind of own their point of view on it.
Absolutely. I like
Yeah.
that, a joint partnership.
Mm.
I applaud people, especially like writers, who they have to get so much feedback and critique, or professional athletes, right? There's
Yeah.
a coach constantly telling you,
Yeah.
"Hey, you need to do things this way or that way." And I think that that's a skill too that you really need to learn it at a young age. I think it's a lot more difficult if you didn't
To to
experience.
to accept the feedback.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to receive any sort of critique when you were younger,
Yeah.
and then to say, "Okay, but this isn't the worst thing in the world," right? This is just feedback, they're helping me,
Right.
well, hopefully, they're trying to help me improve, and you can either take the information or not, right? But at least and you can try and adapt if you think you should.
No, I mean, I actually have done a lot of stuff in my as a grown up in terms I've been in situations where, communication and feedback and giving feedback and how to give feedback and how to accept, it takes practice. It's not easy. And most people are not, it's not something you're born with. So as you've said as
Mhm.
much. So Megan, we're out of time. I've enjoyed this conversation as much as all the others we've had, and I look forward to more in the future.
Me too, I appreciate it, Sean.
All right. Well, that's it for today's episode of The Empathic Edge. If you'd like to learn more about Megan Smith, Empathic Edge, and her team's work around negotiation, communication, and AI powered practice training, visit empathicedge.com. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed the episode, leave us a review, subscribe, share a link with someone in your world who is also interested in being a better communicator. I'm Sean O'Connor. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.